there everyone, and welcome to another edition of Lydia's Crafty Corner with me, Lydia, in my little crafty corner. So today we are going to be 3D embossing some stamp designs. To start off with, I'm using the Fairy Tale Florals stamp set. So this is from a previous release, and I'm just going to pop that into place onto some white cardstock. Now I am going to be using a stamp positioning tool. This is from We Are Memory Keepers. And I'm using this because I am having to stamp it a number of times to get the desired colour that I want from the ink. The ink that I'm using is the Enchanted Gold ink from Altenew. Now this is a pigment ink and it is a beautiful gold colour. The first time that I did stamp it, it was a little bit lighter than I wanted. So then I decided to stamp it a further 2 times directly on top of the image to give me that beautiful gold colour that is represented in the stamp pad. Once that's done, I did turn that piece of paper around and I stamped this again, so I have 2 of these beautifully gold stamped images now. Once that's done, I then went ahead and I took the coordinating die for the set. I'm going to pop that around the image and I'm just going to add a little bit of tape to keep that in place, and then I'll die cut both of the images in the same way. So once they've both been die cut, I'm then going to emboss them. I'm using the coordinating 3D embossing folder, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the stamp design with the little ridges and design that is in the embossing folder. I find this is easiest to do from the front, so you can see I've opened the embossing folder up, then I've moved that stamped image around into place, kept it in place with a little bit of tape before closing the embossing folder, and then running that through my die cutting machine. So I've done the same for both of those images. You don't need to see me do both of them, but I have done both of them, and we are now going to be colouring them in using the coordinating detailed stencil set. So this is the detailed one rather than the undetailed. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking the first stencil first, and I'm just going to pop that into place over the little leaves. Now you may need to move this around a little bit. I did find that I needed to move it just in certain areas just to get it really perfect within the lines, but it is really easy to do. So for this layer here, I am using the Forest Glades ink, and I'm just using a mini blending tool to add the ink through the stencil. I'm then going to move the same stencil up, and this one's going to colour the large flower that we have on the right hand side. Now for all of the flowers, I am going to be using the same ink, and that is the orange sorbet ink from the Frozen Delights. Now as you can see, I'm just moving each of the stencils around. I'm working from stencil number 1 all the way down to stencil number 4, and I'm just moving these stencils around and popping the images in place within the embossed and stamped outlines that we have. I am adding a really light touch of this ink just in the center of the flowers, just so it looks like the flowers really light. You could go for a darker ink if you wanted to, and I didn't use ink all the way over the petals. I did want that darker center rather than at the tips, and that's going to give us a beautiful kind of gradient effect on the edges. So I am doing both of them in exactly the same way. Once I have my images all nicely coloured, I can then play around on my card base. I did find that it was a little bit plain on the card base, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that Enchanted Gold ink and I'm just going to swipe that down the cardstock piece that I have here. Now I'm doing this a number of times. You could press harder or even lighter than what I'm doing on here, just to give a different kind of texture to that background. It kind of looks a little bit like linen if you'd gone the other way as well. That would have been really cool. So once I'm happy with the background, I'm then going to add some foam tape behind both of the images, and I am going to adhere them into place onto the opposite corners on that card panel. I'm then going to remove any of the overhanging pieces from behind. I do find using a large pair of scissors and doing it from behind is the best way to do it, to get a really beautiful clean cut edge on the side of your cards. Now I did have 2 kind of large floral pieces when I cut off the rest of the excess from the front, and I did want to kind of not waste them, so I'm just going to pop those into place on the card front as well. To add a little bit more of interest and shine, I'm going to use some of the antique gold ink spray and just splatter that over the card front. For the sentiment, I'm using the Versatile Greetings hot foil plate. Now I have that in my hot foiling machine. It's nicely warmed up, and I'm also going to use some of the Enchanted Gold foil from Altenew. Pop that down face first, then the cardstock I wish to foil and then some shims. Again, remember, if you don't need to use shims in your machine, please do not. We do not want you to break your machine. Once I've run that through my die cutting machine, I'm going to pull the foil away. Now, I didn't have enough pressure on the words in the center, but I do have a way of kind of hiding some of that, so I am going to show you. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to die cut those foiled elements that we have just created. I'm just using a little bit of tape to keep them in place while I run that through my die cutting machine. So I'm just going to remove all of these from the waste, and I'm just going to be using the gold gel pen from Altenew just to fill in some of that gold foil that didn't quite work. So this works really, really well, especially if they're like little spots that you just want to hide. This will disguise them. So I really do love having this kind of backup tool if I didn't have enough pressure when I was doing my foiling. Next time, I think I may need to cut another shim just to add in to my hot foil plate. So I'm just going to do that on the sweet and the hugs, and it didn't take too long at all just to fill in those gaps. Once that's done, I'm going to take a couple of these sentiments. So I have, hey, hello, sweet, and I'm just going to add them into place onto my card. Once I'm happy with that, I'm then going to take some more foam tape just to add a little bit more dimension to these and then pop those in place. Once I added all of my sentiments into place, I then decided I did want to add a little bit more interest. So I have the Warm and Cozy enamel dots from Altenew, and I'm taking the second lightest shade. So this is the orange cream shade that we have here, and it's very peachy kind of tone. And I'm just going to add a few of these little dots into place around the sentiment, so it kind of guides your eye to the sentiment there. So this is the card complete. I really do hope that you've enjoyed the video and that you like the card that we created too. If you do create a card that was inspired by this, it'd be great if you do share, because we'd love to see. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and we'll see you again really, really soon. Bye-bye. Hello there, crafty friend, Lydia here. Just popping in to say that you can get your daily dose of crafting tips, techniques, and tutorials just like this by subscribing to the Altenew YouTube channel. All you need to do is click on that little bell up there and you will never miss a video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.